So scenario number three. So the founder, let's call her Neha. So Neha has been doing founder-led sales now for 2 years, came to the US, done well, has PMF, has now even raised like institutional round here, right? But it's been a very founder-led kind of sales model. And now she's like, look, I have capital now. I need help. I need to kind of bring in, the right sales talent here, maybe a VP of sales, head of sales, whatever you call it from a title perspective. But still the founder is only 2-3 years in this geo, right? Like the networks are still limited. There is capital now and there is a VC on the cap table, but those relationships are still kind of very, very new, right? So what are some of the things that Neha can do, right, to effectively run a process in terms of identifying people who can sort of join the journey at still a fairly early stages of a startup?
So Neha is already here for a couple of years and they have some scale, right? They've got
Yeah,
customers and
correct. And they've also raised a round.
they've raised money. That's definitely helpful, right? So
Yeah.
you've got money, you've got an investor on the cap table, which means growth rates are important. You raise that money. Again, it goes back to understanding your constituent. See, when you do your investor pitch decks, again, I'll take a segue before I come here. You talk about tripling, quadrupling, 5xing, 10xing. Remember, even casually, if you're talking to an investor and saying, yeah, I intend to triple this year, not that they've made a note, right? You meet them after 1 year and then you've grown 20%, right? You've not lost momentum, you've lost credibility. Okay. So founders have to understand that you may not be a public company CEO wherein your sensitivity has to be 2% or whatever, but your credibility is always in question, correct? There's always a need to establish credibility. So you've raised money promising a certain rate of growth, correct? First thing first, going back to the board, you've got a level set on, and I think all investors will put their hand up and say, I know you said you'll triple this year, but listen, if you don't just burn money doing stupid stuff and you grow reasonably and show me that you have the basis to grow faster in the future, most investors will say, don't worry about it, right? Do it right, do it sustainably, build for the long term, right? And if someone doesn't, then you made a mistake already. But let's come back to she's there, right? She understands where the market is. I'm hoping with this traction, Neha knows one thing that no hired VP of sales can give you. Neha has absolute conviction on her ICP, what resonates with them, why they buy, right? Who she competes with. Because the reason I say, and what does it take to close, right? One is why do you like what I say? What does it take for you to buy, close? Very different incentives, right? Um, so the reason I say that is oftentimes founders make a big mistake. This especially happens if Neha were 2 years earlier avatar of Neha. Neha will come in and find this um, sales leader who will come in, will have a very aggressive sales name. You'll hear the name and like, wow, like this guy. It's usually a guy. He looks like he's got the Rolodex, he's got everything sorted. He's just going to come in and take this baby off. The problem is then you're outsourcing the job of PMF to someone who doesn't understand customer context, pain, solve, close as well as you do, right? In Neha's case, she does, right? Why am I going so deep into this before I get to the team? What are you hiring for is the question I'm asking. Are you hiring for, hey, I know exactly how this works, but at n equal to 1 unit, I need someone to come in and scale the process. What I'm not good at is hiring SDRs and account execs and, I want someone to build the machine and the system, okay? You could be hiring for that. Second would be to add velocity and momentum, which is I'm the only one. I just need more people. Because if you're still very early, the founder understands sales, right? I always say there is nothing called a non-sales founder. You could be an engineer, never left their basement, but remember, you've come to the entire life to solving a problem, which means nobody else has more credibility to make the pitch than you do, right? Because you're buying conviction. So assuming the founder has a greater sales bent, which is I actually want to be one of the co-founders, I'm the one who wants to be the go-to-market co-founder, or I'm the CEO, right? In which case, you may sometimes be better off just hiring sales reps, a director of sales, lower sort of rank and whatever, because you know what works. You want to impart that knowledge to a small set of people and off to the races. Because your marketing is generating enough leads, you can amp that up. But if you feel that you don't have what it takes to hire, train, enable, right? and make a sales team succeed, and you believe you're at the takeoff point, which is I need to hire 4 to 6 people, I've raised money, right? And you can't do an N equal to 1 experiment, right? You can't hire one SDR and say if it worked or not. You need to hire in pairs at least, right? Or pods, 2 pods, right? SDR, this solution engineer. You need to hire a couple of pods to understand what is the people who are not performing, is it the process that's not performing? In which case, a VP of sales is a good idea. There's nothing wrong in hiring a VP. I would only request, please, at 2 million ARR, don't hire a CRO. Like, don't do stupid stuff, right? Like this over titling is such a huge problem. Very early in our life, Girish of Freshworks told us about, hey, you guys come in and I see you guys, you're like seed funded and you have like C of everything, chief this officer, chief that officer. And then when you take the lesson of not hiring C-suite at like 200K, you then say head off. Like, what is on top of head off? Nobody, right? Which means the moment I hire a senior leader at the next phase, I'm telling you you're out of a job. But that's not true. Just because a company scales and someone needs to come in, you should not be out of a job. But I've already made you head, which means I need to now, I don't know, unhead you, right? I don't want to say other words, but I need to like, what do you do with your life now, right? It makes it makes it untenable for you to be in the company. So please don't have CRO and all these titles. VP of sales, fantastic. For the longest time, Silicon Valley was built on the backs of VPs of sales. VP of product was the most important product leader. Now you have SVP, EVP, then C, whatever. Now you have a CRO. That's all much later in the game, right? So don't over title. I know you'll have to pitch keenly to get the right leader in. And that is when you start making compromises around CRO. I need this. I need to own marketing and sales. No, my marketing knows what it's doing, right? I need you to come in and scale sales, right? Neha's requirement, I'm assuming, is I know what it takes to sell to my ICP. I don't know how to predictably go to them, right? I've never scaled a sales team before. I might mishire, right? I don't know what it takes. I don't know how the process runs. If there are 6 or 8 or 10 sales reps, now that I can afford it with my funding, I don't know what it takes. So if you want someone to come in, I would say it's okay to get a VP of sales, but what are you looking for? I would ideally get someone who says, I will take the minimum pod size and structure to see early signs of success. What I will not do is take my previous Salesforce experience and say, hey, per rep productivity is 1.6 million of ACV. If I have 20 reps, I can do 1.6 into 20, 3.32 mil. Of course, there's a ramp period, and the year after we'll start chugging. What is the problem? The problem is ramp. First 3 months, zero productivity. Second 3 months, something. The last third quarter is when you start hitting quota. Q4 is when you hit quota. That means you'll close 30% of your ACV goal, right? 40% maybe. Best case scenario. What is that? That's like $500,000. So now you had 10, 20, 30 reps, closing $500,000, assuming quota attainment, if it's 100%, you're God, okay? Reality is it'll be 30 or 40%. Half of your reps won't work. So you're going to generate 2-3 million of ARR and you would have spent like 20 million that year. Game over, right? You just burnt all your investor money and also proved to your investor that you're a bad founder. So if you're getting a sales leader, they need to be of the same mold as you, which is, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to see what is the minimum pod size or like 1, 2, whatever, that I can enable to do transference of the founder's understanding of PMF.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And see if it works, see what doesn't work, the kind of reps that don't work, the kind of process that doesn't work, the kind of marketing to sales handover that doesn't work, right? Once I've understood more things than not, there's still many things to be figured out. I will then ask you to add fuel to the fire. I'll ask you for 6, 8, 10 more reps. I'll ask for a director of sales. I'll do all of these things, right? So that person also needs to have the same thought process of experimentation, proving something at an empirical level before they scale. Very, very, very often, Neha is going to be confronted with a very flamboyant sales leader who will tell you exactly what they did at their 500 million ARR startup, right? And how they added 200 million of revenue the year prior. I know exactly how this is done, trust me, right? $20 million out, 3 million of net ARR, you're out of a business, you're out of a job, right? So be very careful of doing those commits. So I know it's a lot of thoughts, but that's approximately where I'm at as to what kind of a person you need, what level, and maybe what mistakes to avoid.